to the PhD Mommy's Journey podcast with Bridgette Ojo,
an educator and scientific researcher who also happens to be your number one fan. This podcast is for millennial mommypreneurs who strive to be the best versions of themselves every single day. If you're a millennial mom interested in learning more about mindset, motherhood, and motivation, then this is the podcast for you.
Hello there, and welcome back to the PhD Mommy's Journey podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Bridgette Ojo. I'm a Navy sailor, girl mom, educator, and founder of the PhD Mommy. I'm living proof that you can rewrite your story, walk through hard seasons, and still become the woman God created you to be. On today's episode, we are continuing our series from the book written by Dr. Jordan Peterson, 12 Rules for Life, An Antidote to Chaos. Today's episode is based on Rule 10, be precise in your speech. Now, y'all, this episode is all about the power of clarity, the power of naming what you actually want. The power of speaking truth instead of vague feelings. And why so many people stay stuck, not because they lack discipline, but because they lack precision. Because think about it. If you can't clearly define the problem, you can't solve it. If you can't clearly define the goal, you can't pursue it. If you can't clearly define the life you want, you'll spend your life wandering. So, let's dive in. Now, let me start with something bold. Vague women live vague lives. And I say that with love. For years, I knew I wanted more. More success, more peace, more confidence, more money, more impact, but more is vague. And vague goals produce vague action. I had to learn that wanting better isn't enough. Wanting success isn't enough. Wanting happiness isn't enough. You have to define it. What does success mean to you? What kind of body do you want? What kind of income do you want? What title do you want? What lifestyle do you want? What kind of mother do you want to be? What kind of legacy are you building? Because until you get specific, your life will remain unclear. I'm going to say that one more time. Because until you get specific, your life will remain unclear. And let me tell you, unclear people, they hesitate. Unclear people procrastinate. Unclear people confuse motion with actual progress. One of the hardest things I've had to learn in adulthood was how to actually name what I wanted. Now, it wasn't what sounded good, what looked impressive, what made other people feel comfortable, but instead it was what I, Bridgette, wanted. And that was so difficult for me because precision forces accountability. It's easy to say, I want to get a shape. It's harder to say, I want to lose 150 pounds. I want visible muscle. I want to become more disciplined. I want to look in the mirror and feel proud. It's easy to say, I want a better career. It's harder to say, I want to join the Navy at 32. I want to become an officer. I want to build a legacy for my daughters. It's easy to say, I want to make an impact. It's harder to say, I want to earn my PhD. I want to build a platform. I want women to hear my story and believe they can transform their own. Precision makes things real. And once it's real, you can't hide from it anymore. Recently, I graduated from combat school. And many of you guys know that I am in the military, specifically in the Navy. And let me tell you, doing combat school, especially at age 33, pushed me outside of my comfort zones in ways I expected and in ways that I didn't expect. Of course, there were physical challenges, there were mental challenges, and there were many situations where I was forced to operate under pressure. And yet, something interesting happened. Despite being uncomfortable, despite being challenged, despite being pushed and actually crying during combat school, I performed very well. Why? Because the objectives were clear. There was no emotional confusion. There were no vague expectations. I wasn't wondering, what exactly am I supposed to do? Combat school was simple. It was, here's the mission, here's the standard, complete the task. That's it. And because the expectations were precise, I was able to execute. Now, that taught me something so powerful. Clarity minimizes fear. A lot of people aren't lazy. They're just unclear. A lot of people aren't incapable. They're just confused. When the mission is clear, execution becomes easier. Even when it's hard, even when you're uncomfortable, even when you're scared. Now, of course, being the PhD mommy, I can't talk about anything else without talking about my dissertation. Now, my dissertation defense was another moment where this rule, being precise in your speech, became real. You cannot defend years of doctoral research with vague language. You cannot stand before your committee and say, well, kinda, sorta, maybe. No. You have to know your work. You have to articulate your argument clearly. You have to defend your reasoning. You have to be precise in your storytelling. And let me tell you something. Precision creates confidence. Now, confidence isn't always natural. Sometimes confidence is simply the byproduct of clarity. I was confident in my defense because I knew my work. I had clarity in my research. I had precision in my methodology. I had to own my expertise. And that taught me half of insecurity is simply lack of clarity. Now, let's take this inward, because many of us are imprecise with ourselves. We say, I'm overwhelmed. Okay, but overwhelmed by what? Work? Motherhood? Finances? Burnout? Decision fatigue? We say, I'm unhappy. Okay, but why are you unhappy? Are you lonely? Do you feel unfulfilled? Are you being undisciplined? Do you feel out of alignment? We may say, I'm not enough. Enough for what? You cannot heal vague pain. You cannot solve undefined problems. You cannot fix what you refuse to accurately name. And this has been such a huge thing for me in my own self-talk, because there were so many seasons where I told myself, I'm behind. No, I wasn't behind. I was just simply rebuilding. There are times that I told myself, I'm failing. No, I was actually learning. There were times that I told myself, I'm weak. No, I was just simply exhausted. Again, precision changes everything. Now, here's the hard truth. Many women avoid precision because precision removes excuses. When you clearly define the problem, you also clearly define responsibility. And that's scary. Because once you admit, my relationship isn't healthy, my habits are holding me back, my fear is self-sabotaging me, my inconsistency is the issue, then what? Then you have to change. Vagueness protects comfort. Precision demands transformation. And many people would rather remain vaguely dissatisfied than specifically accountable. This rule aligns deeply with my faith. Scripture tells us repeatedly about the power of words. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. This means your words matter. How you speak about yourself matters. How you speak about your future matters. How you speak about your children matters. How you speak about your circumstances matters. Stop casually speaking defeat over your life. Stop saying, I'm always broke, I'll never get there, I'm just not disciplined, I'm not smart enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'll always struggle, etc., etc. Be careful what you repeatedly say, because eventually your mind is going to believe it. Now, I'd like to leave you with this. If you want your life to change, start speaking more clearly. Name the fear, define the problem, clarify the goal, tell the truth. Because you cannot build a precise life with vague language. You cannot create extraordinary outcomes with mediocre clarity. You cannot become her while speaking like someone who is still confused. Be precise in your speech, because if you can't name it, you can't change it. If this episode spoke to you, do me a favor. Follow me on Instagram at the PhD Mommy Life for real-time updates, daily empowerment, and behind the scenes from my journey. Don't forget to download my free 30-day gratitude journal. I promise it will shift your mindset fast and keep you anchored in truth. Subscribe, download this episode, leave a review, share it with the mom, share it with your sister, share it with a friend who's ready to stop living vaguely and start living intentionally. Because guess what? Around here, we don't play small, we don't stay silent, and we definitely do not stop. As always, thank you so much for listening to the PhD Mommy's Journey podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Bridgette Ojo. Until next time, keep going, never stop, never quit, and never surrender.